Hello, everyone. As we get toward the winter here in New England, I wanted to talk about safety and what it takes to make sure that you're going to be safe during storms. Now, you may not be aware of a government website called ready.gov. And like all government websites, of course, it's quite possible it'll either be taken down or bad information put up. So I suggest that if you're going to go here, go as quickly as possible. It has a FEMA mobile app, and as we know, FEMA's had a bunch of budgetary cuts and has been prevented from going into certain states. So the app, your mileage may vary. It's supposed to give preparedness strategies, real-time weather, those kinds of things. So it may or may not be valid. Sticking with your local forecasters and things is probably your best bet in any case. But there are a couple of nice things on here. It does talk about what to do for power outages. Make sure that you've got alternate ways to charge your phone. But one of the things that you could run into is the fact that if in a real emergency, cell phone towers may get overloaded, in which case you can't get calls out. Now, part of that is the reason that the amateur radio leagues got together and put together a group for doing emergency communications. The amateur side of it's through the American Radio Relay League. It's called the Amateur Radio Emergency Services. And its goal was to handle emergency communications during some kind of disaster. And there'll be a reason why I'm talking about this in a minute that'll tie into the build a kit list. But the goal here is to make sure that there's still ways of getting communications through. If you were aware of the storms that hit the Caribbean, sometimes the only way people knew if their family was safe was by amateur radio operators calling in because the power was out because of a hurricane. And without power, the cell towers aren't going to work. But ham radios don't require as much power. In addition, they can reach longer distances than your cell phone can because your cell phone needs a tower to function. And a lot of ham operators have battery backups or generators that they can run their radios off of so they can get communications out. So those were the ways that communication was happening. Now, the reason I bring that up, there is on the ready.gov site a communications list, but there's also a readiness list, basically a go kit that you would put together for an emergency. And the kit has things in it like food, water, battery-operated radio that you can get weather broadcasts from, flashlights, first aid kits, whistles, etc. A can opener, because you never know if you're going to need that, but it has a cell phone in here. Now, I'm going to amend their list. It's not even in their additionals list here, and that is to go out. They're inexpensive. You can get a GMRS radio. If you want to get licensed, you can. The license is real easy to get, and it's cheap through the FCC. But a GMRS radio or a walkie-talkie, GMRS usually have better distance, and some of them have repeaters. And if the repeaters have batteries, you can use those. But in an emergency, if you and your family get separated, right, and the cell phones are down, this will allow you to communicate with your family. And I think that's extra important during an emergency, especially when you're trying to find out how somebody in your family is doing or how a loved one is doing, making sure that you both have a radio and that you have set up a way of communicating. Like I said, the other part that they've got to this list is a communications plan. And basically what you want to do is, what in an emergency are you going to do? right? Who's going to talk? How, what frequencies are you going to be using? The forum itself is useful in a way. It basically puts things together like emergency meeting places and things like that. But it's got emergency contacts and things, and it's okay. Let's put it this way. It's information that everybody in the family should have. But the important part in an emergency, and if you look at what's happening right now in the Northeast, we have a lot of spots that have no burn notices up. And the reason they've got no burn notices up is certain areas up here are very dry. My area has been pretty wet until recently. And even though we had rain the other day, the ground still looks parched. So if something were to trigger a fire, right, it could be devastating with the amount of trees in this area. And that's this area with trees. Other areas where the houses are more closely packed, the house is just going to go house to house to house, and the fires are going to go through, as you've seen like in Los Angeles. So it's important to have a what happens if. So if everybody's out and the house catches fire, where are you going to meet? Right? And meeting place is poor, because a meeting place assumes that you only planned one. You should have multiple meeting places, because maybe your meeting place isn't viable anymore, right? If you picked a really good meeting place, let's say you chose a mall, you're in a larger area and you chose to sit at a mall. Well, that mall might be command and control, depending on where the fire is, for staging trucks and getting communications and things out. That might be a very poor place for you to be, because there'll be a lot of other people there and a lot of activity, and there may not be room for you. So plan out where you're going to meet and plan out how you're going to communicate. Like I said, having these small radios, they're not very big. They have a pretty good range to them. But that would allow you to talk to each other easily if the cell systems are overloaded. And if you are a radio operator, if you've gone through and gotten your amateur radio license, I encourage you to take a look at the ARRL site. ARRL is Amateur Radio Relay League. Check the site out and see what you can learn there, and see if you're interested in becoming an emergency operator. We need emergency operators in every state. Some states are better equipped than others. My particular state here is okay, but we have gaps in certain areas of the state where we just don't have a lot of operators in place. So see if you can help out there, because to me, if you have the capability of doing something, like, for example, if you have first aid training, right? You're capable of doing first aid, and there's an emergency, you should perform first aid. To me, that goes with you learning the skill. Even if you only learned it for yourself or for your family, it goes with that skill that there's a responsibility that goes with it. So think about it. Contact them. There's a government side to it called RACES, Radio Amateur Civilian Emergency Service, and see if that's a fit for you. Because first line and any emergency is going to be the people in the community. It's not going to be FEMA. It's not going to be the government coming in with its people, because they're not there when the emergency happens. It's going to be us. And from there, we need to be the ones to handle these emergencies and handle the communications up front until everybody else can get in place. And the first part of that equation is making sure that you know your family is safe and you have a way of communicating with them. And that's what I got for you guys this week, and I'll talk to you all next week.